So far, it was largely the philosophers who studied human consciousness, but a serious effort to understand consciousness and walk the path towards ultimate reality was made at the MIT World Peace University in the form of the world's first conference on consciousness, the ultimate reality.
Now coming to the last part of my talk. My quest for finding out the reality, eventually by a twerk of fate you might call it, I happened to come across a book which was, the foreword of which was written in English. And that book was called Unito Mystica. It was a commentary written by a very learned person on his interpretation of the Sangdev Pasashti, which is an absolutely incredible work of literature by Sant Jnaneshwar. And after I read that introduction, I was very curious to have a glimpse of that book, because I didn't have the book, I just had a prologue of that book. And as a quirk of destiny would be, I managed to lay my hands on that book. And trust me, my dear friends, that book and some of the, it is actually a book which is comprised of 65 verses written by Sant Jnaneshwar, addressed to Sangdev Rishi, who was one of the most advanced yogis and a Siddha Purush in his own right. And he was very curious to know what is reality, because he was having Siddhi. Siddhi is a blessing and a power by which he could even make a dead man alive. He was that powerful, that omnipotent. But he still did not know what the ultimate truth was. So he was very curious, and he approached this quartet, that is of Sant Jnaneshwar, Muktabai, Nivruttinath and Sopan. And he asked them, he surrendered himself and said that please let me know the ultimate truth. And Sant Jnaneshwar, without even having to meet him, told him that okay, I know what your query is. And he wrote 65 verses which were addressed to Sangdev, and hence it is called as Sangdev Pasashti. And my dear friends, I would like to be very proud and show you that the OV, or that is the shloka it is called as, I'll just read it out to you. दृश्य जेधवा नाही तिथवा दृष्टी घेऊनी असे काही आणि देशविण काही दृष्टत्व असे. Now this is the shlok. Now this, if it were to be looked upon as just a shlok by a saint, it would not have the purport of science to it. But see that interpretation of this shloka. It is interpreted in this manner: observer and observed cannot exist without each other. Then nothing will exist. For the qualitative world of form, color, taste, etc., which we experience in the result of interaction between the observer and the observed, light as such has no property of its own. It is the interaction of the electromagnetic waves with the waves emitted by the observer which give it the property of light. Without us, light will not exist, and furthermore that without light, we will not exist. It is the interaction which give properties to the so-called object, and it is the same interactions which give us a sense of being. Without these interactions, neither objects will be there, neither the sense of our being will be there. So you can understand that if I try to interpret the Sangdev Pasashti, which is actually a shlok, and I interpret it in a manner which he is trying to get across to us, we will probably have a reviewing our understanding of reality in the post-quantum era and a post-Jnaneshwar era in which we are lucky to be born. This is just one of the shlok. I'll share the next one with you, which is equally fascinating. The other shlok is Taisena Vachata Bheda Samvitti Game Tridha Hechi Jane Prasiddha Upapatti Haya. Thus, the holistic essence appears triangularly without disturbing its holistic nature. The essence appears as a seer seen and seeing, as he pulsates with his existential inspiration, which is I amness. He pulsates, I am, and this pulsation makes the essence appear triangular as the self, the object, and the seeing. The differential potentia which keeps the two poles, that is the subject and the object, bound to each other. Thus, though in appearance it seems triangular, it is one continuum essence. This is Santa Dnyaneshwar in one of the shlokas that he's mentioned, which I think is superlative. It transcends quantum physics, it transcends almost everything. It is a direct pointer to the reality. It is just saying that the whole universe is a projection on the screen of my consciousness, and that is what we probably might be coming to the conclusion of saying that Aham Brahmasmi. The last essence which I wanted to add about our Indian philosophical systems, which differs, there's a great departure from our philosophical systems to the Western philosophical systems, is the mention of Sat Chit Ananda. Sat is eternal, Chit is consciousness, but the third most integral part, which Professor Bhatkar and me, we have always tried to decipher in our own way, is the bhav, the emotion, the joy of it all. If we keep this restriction only to understanding consciousness, the Western world will travel down the path of something which is very dry, which is very arid, which is just logic based, which is cause-effect based. But our Indian philosophical system talks of this totipotent unmanifest state of awareness, which I would call as Brahma, which is not just conscious, but it is also all the time eternally in a state of bliss. And I think until and unless we can incorporate this bhav and this ananda into our understanding of the ultimate truth, it will be an exercise in futility. I thank you all for a patient listening. Thanks so much.